What did you learn about LSU last weekend?
I learned that the offensive line can be relied upon
Hmm.
in, I guess, high pressure situations. Now, I'm going to asterisk that with the fact that Grenard was not available for the majority of that game, and that was, in my opinion, the big mismatch in that game. That was where Florida really, I thought, had a big advantage against LSU. Zuniga not available for a lot of that game. So they escaped a little bit of trouble there, but if you go back and really study it, something cool that kind of happened was all these people who are kind of peeing their pants about Joe Brady and what he's doing. You saw a little Steve Ensminger influence in that offense last week because I thought the difference in the game, maybe not the difference in the game, that's going a little bananas, but the guy who's not getting enough credit for what he did last week was Thaddeus Moss. He was unbelievable in that game for LSU. He helped in pass protection. I mean, he's throwing like the Street Fighter. You get like just busting guys.
I saw
off
your
the
tweet,
left in
Cole.
pass protection. I mean, they ran. So what Auburn did late, and this is like if you just dive into it, it's so cool to see kind of what coaches do and how they can change and how they can morph and how they can steal other things. I love these people who get so mad about that's not original. Like he stole that from somebody else. Everything is stolen in football. Like,
Amen.
Nobody's sitting there on a piece of paper and saying, let's try this. Like, they all saw it, and then you put your own twist on it. So Auburn tried to go gap scheme runs against Florida early on. Florida's too athletic, too quick, too fast. It wasn't happening. Late in the third quarter, about 2.5 minutes left, they started going zone scheme, and they ran this split zone, insert zone with the H-back. They'll run like zone left. The H-back will be lined up to the left, and he'll come back across and then climb for a linebacker. So what it does is it's visually deceptive to that linebacker because they're expecting somebody to come off a double team, but then here comes this H-backer tight end from the opposite direction, which also shows you a different flow, and then he climbs up and blocks you, and he takes you out of the play.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they did with Moss. Same thing, and they dominated Florida with that play. Linebackers were not fitting the run the way that they needed to. Moss got a couple of big blocks, and, of course, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just busting off big runs left and right. So sort of the Ensminger influence of having that tight end to stay in protection and then utilizing him in the run game as well, mixing it with the brilliance of Joe Brady in the passing game. I mean, then you can't – I mean, Joe Burrow's 21-24. Come on.
I know.
What else can you say about how great he was? But it just goes to show you LSU is not a one-trick pony, and they can continue to sort of grow and morph and be different week in and week out. And that's a very dangerous thing for SEC defenses that are going to face them down the road.
How legitimate should the concern be about the defense?
I mean, I feel great about the defense. The fact, well, for me, when I see Divinity on the field and Logan on the field and Lawrence on the field and Chaisson on the field, I'm thinking, okay, we're getting back where we need to be. Like that thing's getting back close to being what we thought it was going to be before the year. Don't not give Dan Mullen credit. Dan had a good plan.
Yes.
He understood how to make Kyle Trask's life a little bit easy. They gave him simple throws, easy reads, got the ball out pretty quick. He knew he wasn't going to run in between the tackles on that defense. It wasn't going to happen. Spin it out to the perimeter, try to attack the middle of the field, utilize some of the athleticism and some of the aggressiveness against them, and go out and try to make things happen that way. Kyle Trask played a pretty good game. He had a clean pocket for a lot of the game. Not all the game, but a lot of the game. Enough time to be able to make some throws. And I think that was something that you look at and you say, okay, he had a little something to work with there. So that was a plus. But I'm not overly concerned about the LSU defense because I saw K'Lavon Chaisson make huge plays. I mean, that goal line stop when he essentially forces Kyle Trask to go out on the zone read and keep the football and then goes out and makes the play in the flat. And then also a couple pass rush situations where he came up big. Obviously, Derek Stingley had a big interception. He had a nice game. So not overly concerned. You had a couple guys make big plays at big times. Grant Delpit came up on a big third down, got a stop in the run game. That was huge. So now that they've got everybody on the field, I think you can kind of say, all right, can they grow together now that we've got everybody where they need to be?
Cole Cubelic continues to prove why he is so good at breaking down football. I mean, from afar, Cole, to be a national guy that has to watch all these teams and to pick up on something that we didn't even really pick up on, that combination influence of Ensminger, Brady, and specifically how tied in with Thad Moss, absolutely spectacular. Follow him on Twitter at Cole Cubelic. Let's look at some of the other games around the SEC last week. Let's start with the biggest upset maybe of the year, in my opinion, Cole, and that was South Carolina beating Georgia in double OT 20-17 in Athens. I almost don't even know where to start here. How does a Georgia offensive line that is so vaunted, a quarterback in Jake Fromm that is so well respected, how do they only put up 17 against a South Carolina team at home?
All right, there's a lot that goes into this, and the national thought process is nobody will appreciate this more than you, T-Bob, because you got a couple of riders who are sitting up there in the press box during the game, and they see two or three things, and all of a sudden that's what happened for the entire game. So you got a couple guys that like to write about football, and they say, Georgia offensive line's getting their ass kicked. Georgia offensive line's been dominated the entire game. And then you go back and you watch the film, and it's like, well, I didn't really see it that way. Now, I will say this. Javon Kinlaw, he got his. Javon Kinlaw made Alabama's offensive line look silly. He made Kentucky's offensive line look silly. And he made Georgia's offensive line look silly at times. He, outside of Derek Brown, has been the most dominant interior defensive lineman in college football this year. Not just the SEC, in college football. But he got 6'6", 298 pounds, 16% body fat, and he's got an 87-inch wingspan. Like, that's Oliver Miller wingspan.
How did he end up in South Carolina?
He is unbelievable. And, yeah, he got his. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant effect. Like, they're going to get their 35. Are you going to be able to manage everybody else? You had a right guard who had a busted assignment that led for a tackle for loss. Andrew Thomas got beaten pass pro late in the game. That actually happened, yes. But I go back and put the film on, and I see DeAndre Swift going for 12, DeAndre Swift going for 9, DeAndre Swift going for 4, DeAndre Swift going for 7. And I go back and look at the play-by-play list, and I look at the second downs in the first half for Georgia in that game, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, and I'm like, that's ahead of schedule. That's exactly where you want to be. And so then I look at the quarterback, and the quarterback didn't keep one zone read the entire time. I talked to Tavares Robinson, South Carolina defensive coordinator, before the Kentucky game, and he talked about how he likes to bring pressure from the field, from the boundary, backside, because he knows that he can get guys coming from the backside to go make plays and take away plays on cutback runs. Well, he did it against Georgia. Georgia didn't do anything to counter that. And then all of a sudden your quarterback's spitting out quick throws left and right on easy second down situations. They don't take shot plays on those second downs. Quarterback fumbles a snap, doesn't get on the ground to get it, sits there and looks at the football. Receivers are dropping passes, tipping balls up for interception. Quarterback's throwing interception, but everybody's blaming the offensive line for it. I saw Jake Fromm in the pocket for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. I mean, the guy's going through his progressions twice. And it's the offensive line's fault they lost that game. So I'm not buying it. I'm not here for it. If you're having a percentage pie of blame for that football game, I'm not even giving the offensive line 30% of the blame in that game. So you had play calling that was an issue. You had coaching decisions late in that game that were an issue. You had a quarterback issue. You had wide receivers dropping pass issues. Now, the defense actually played pretty good football. They only gave up 1 touchdown. So Georgia's defense is underrated. They have not allowed a rushing touchdown this season. They're playing pretty good ball, but that was just a mess offensively for Georgia, top to bottom. I thought the scheme, I thought the plan, I thought the execution was a mess all across the board, and the offensive line had some blame. Absolutely. They blew some things. They did some things wrong, but to sit there and say that that's 80, 90% of why Georgia lost that football game, I'm not buying it at all. And that South Carolina matchup with Florida this weekend, because of some of the things that we discussed, very dangerous. South Carolina can play man. Kinlaw is going to eat against an offensive line that's average. And you got a South Carolina team that's riding high with emotion right now.
Interesting, man. So that is coming up at 11 a.m. Central Time this Saturday. You got Florida traveling to South Carolina. It's an odd slate of SC games, and that for the first time this year, I think everybody's playing. It's all in conference, which is great, but it's maybe not a too great of a matchup among the bunch. What do you think is going to be the most competitive game this weekend?
I think it might be the game I'm working, A&M and Ole Miss.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Ole Miss coming off a loss, but they had a good game on the ground again against the Missouri defense, even without Cale Garrett. That's been, people don't realize this, they've been great against the run this year. Really good against the run, especially if you subtract the opener against Wyoming. They've been dominant against the run. So now all of a sudden, Rich Rod's got him a dynamic quarterback in John Rice Plumlee, who is an elite runner. Elite speed. he can get things going. You got a couple nice weapons in the backfield with Scotty Phillips and Jerrion Ely, Tyler Knight outside. I mean, they're finding themselves offensively, and they're playing more sound on defense. And I think if you're A&M, like, kind of where are you right now? What are you right now? Because if you look down their schedule, this thing's got a chance to get really bad for Texas A&M. Like, we were all sitting there saying, yes, it's a tough schedule. 7-8 wins would be phenomenal, but what would 6-6 be? I'm not sure if A&M fans are going to accept that, be happy with that. And if they don't get this one, it could be bad for Texas A&M. I mean, they still have to play Georgia. They still have to play LSU. They've got to get back in the win column and build a little bit of confidence. And I'm just wondering, is Jimbo Fisher going to sort of make that transition offensively to being a pass-first team, running the offense through K'Lavon and the receivers initially? Because I don't think the run game's going to be there. I just don't think it's going to get going. That Alabama front had a lot of success against that offensive line last week, and it's still a good defensive line, but they didn't play up to the standard that they need to against Alabama last week to be able to cause enough problems to help their defense have success. So being in Oxford, pretty big game. I'm excited to watch it because I think both of these teams have a chance to grow and maybe exceed some expectations here in the second half of the season. But it feels more like Ole Miss is actually trending in that direction than A&M is.
Yeah.
Cole will be in Vaught-Hemingway tomorrow night, 6:30 start on the SEC Network. Shout out to Tex Morris and Edward Jones for bringing our conversation each week with Cole. You were fantastic in Jonesboro last night on the call, man. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Hey, I think Ed Orgeron's a great coach, so I appreciate you having that.
Hell
Yes,
yeah.
indeed. Close it out next.